reflexes like a mongoose on amphetamines. Waving his Wilson wand. Super scintillating and sensational from Sosa. It's tennis near the gods. No mortal may approach.
All right, welcome to our podcast, Tennis Nearer the Gods. I'm Alex, and I'm here with my brother Nicholas, and we're going to be previewing the 2019 ATP season. So to start off, we're just going to be going through who we see rising and falling, then talk about the big three and what we see for them the rest of the year. So starting off with guys who are coming up, I would look to Nicholas Basilashvili as someone to look for in the 2019 season. He ended his 28th season very well. He played a couple tight matches at the end of the year in Vienna and in Paris against Kevin Anderson, losing in the third set, tight, I believe, 7-6 both times. And so even looking at his first tournament in Doha, he played a good tournament, losing to Djokovic 6-3 in the third, 6-4 in the third. And he's someone who is definitely on the rise and has a big game, balance off both sides. Backhand's a weapon, so is the forehand. Hits the ball really hard, which will transition well in the hard courts. And he has no points to defend in the first half of the year, pretty much. And also, yeah.
So, I mean, he really doesn't have any points to defend. His first real points was in Hamburg, where he won that 500, and then he won Beijing later in the year. I mean, he just plays gassed-up tennis. Really impressive player. And another guy who had a really great late-season surge was Daniil Medvedev. He won Winston-Salem. He did win, Sydney, I'm pretty sure, in the beginning of the year. But he's already into the finals in Brisbane. And after Sydney, he really doesn't have any points to defend coming up all the way until the last week of the summer in Winston-Salem, where he won. So I could even see him pushing the envelope to break into the top 10 with John Isner, probably dropping the number of points he has as he won Miami, 1,000 points, and I don't think he'll be able to fully defend that. So I could definitely see Daniil Medvedev really moving up in the rankings. He's playing some great tennis. It's on the hard courts where he can do exceptionally well. So look out for Medvedev to start to rise.
Then another player that I'm focusing on, at least, is Borna Coric, who I think is the next guy to break into the top 10. He had an unbelievable year last year. He started off well with the Golden Swing in Indian Wells and Miami, so he's got some points to defend there. But he lost in the first round last year at the Australian Open. He ended his year off well. He's coming into his own. He played a great tennis sporadically throughout the year, in stretches, but it was rather consistent performance. And he's the next guy, I think, out of the young guys outside of Alexander Zverev, who I could see breaking through. I mean, when I look at Karen Khachanov, I think that tournament run in Paris wasn't a fluke, but I don't see him repeating that type of year. I don't think he's not one to break in the top 10, especially with most of the season being outdoors. You look at him, his performance, he lost first round in Doha to Stan Wawrinka, which is not a bad loss, but it's not Stan Wawrinka of old. And I don't see him backing up quite the same season, while I see Borna Coric as someone who's just there day in and day out. He's got a very solid game. Backhand's a massive weapon. His forehand's pretty huge too. And he kind of reminds me of the Djokovic-esque style of play. He's just a warrior. He's going to be there week in, week out. And so I see him as the next guy into the top 10. I do see John Isner dropping out, but I see the top 10 holding pretty much outside of that, depending if Nadal gets healthy or not. And so I think Medvedev, as you said, is going to jump a little bit, but there's a lot of points to go to get inside the top 10. He's going to have to. The Masters 1000s is where he's going to have to make his points. And do I think he's going to make that run, beating one of the top guys? No, I don't see it happening. He is a very high level player, but I don't see him quite breaking through against one of these guys. I mean, he did play a close match with Federer in Shanghai, but I still don't see it quite from him.
And I mean, talking about the top guys, with Nadal withdrawing from Brisbane, his last tournament was in the U.S. Open, where he played 3 just absolute battles against Kachanov, Basilashvili, and Thiem. His body just could not hold up, and it's really not good to see him not starting the season off, even after having a full 3 months to heal and recover. So it'll be interesting to see how he fares throughout the season. I mean, he'll obviously want to play the clay court season. He has to. That's where basically all of his points come into play.
I guess with Nadal, he's going to perform in the clay court season. It's whether he can last throughout the entire year past Roland Garros. I mean, him pulling out of Brisbane is not a massive surprise. I mean, him like Federer, he's going to have to pick his tournaments. His body has more wear and tear on it. And I mean, again, clay court swing, he's going to be the Rafa Nadal that dominates. I don't see anyone taking him out still. Even Dominic Thiem, I don't think Dominic Thiem has it to beat him consistently. And even, I mean, the next great clay court player that's on the tour is coming up is Stefanos Tsitsipas, and I, again, don't see him beating him. And you look at Zverev, who played a close match with him in Rome, and again, just on the clay, he's going to be too tough. His body is going to hold up there. It's just, the question is how far can he play into the hard court season? Starting off in the Australian Open, I don't see him winning it. I think Djokovic is in great form, even though he took the loss to Roberto Bautista Agut. He's still, it's going to take a massive effort to take him out in best of 5 sets. He's going to go in fresh. He's playing very solid tennis. Nadal, again, I see him doing what he's supposed to do. I could see Zverev taking him out in the Australian. I could see maybe Kevin Anderson or Cilic, like what happened last year against Cilic. I don't see him lasting on the hard courts enough, but he's class, so he's not going to lose to anyone that you wouldn't expect. It's against the top guys. Once you get inside the top 10, if he's not 100% healthy, then I think you start to see a little drop-off on the hard courts. But outside of that, no.
But I feel like for the clay court swing, you've got guys like Zverev, and then now Djokovic is completely healthy, so he's going to be able to play well on the clay courts. You've got guys like Kevin Anderson, Thiem, obviously, Nishikori. I just feel
not touching him on clay.
I mean, even
not
Borna
touching him on clay. You can't. No, not happening. They're not touching him on clay. I mean, unless he goes in battered.
I feel like there are a lot more people on clay this year than last year who can take him out.
No, disagree. You look at Thiem. He's taken out him once consistently
each year. Yes.
But then who else? Zverev played him very close in Rome. He was
for sure.
He was playing better until the rain delay.
Yeah, exactly.
But still, I think it's not happening in Roland Garros. No one's beating him in best of 5.
Yeah.
No one's beating him. Yeah. The real question is in one of the Masters 1000s when you get into Monte Carlo.
I mean, Djokovic, Djokovic could definitely take him out.
Monte Carlo's too slow. No one's beating him in Monte Carlo. I don't see Djokovic taking him out on clay if he's healthy. I don't see it how Djokovic is not the same dominant Djokovic that we saw 3-4 years ago, where he did take Nadal out on clay.
And I even think Grigor Dimitrov could pose a threat.
Not on clay. No.
Maybe not on clay just yet, but I mean,
I see him again. I see him jumping.
I see him on the rise, definitely.
He's had this trend now where he has a great year. When he first broke into the top 10, he followed it up the next year where he dropped outside the top 40.
Yeah.
And then the following years he made that jump again back in, and he made it all the way up to 3, I believe. Whether it was the following year or the year after, and again he had the bit of the lull last year. But I see him, I mean, do I see him getting to where he was? No. He's not going to make it to 3. I don't think. But I think top 10 is a reasonable sight or expectation to have.
For sure.
Or measuring stick, whether he ends up 11, 12, I don't know. But I think around there, he should be able to get back there. Definitely. Especially, I mean, he looked great in Brisbane. He lost to Nishikori 7-5, 7-5. But he had his opportunities in that match. But he was playing well, and Nishikori looks phenomenal. So that's another person that I see. And then you look at David Goffin and Pablo Carreño Busta, who had a little drop-offs last year. I think Goffin is not – I don't think he's going to return to his form that he was in. And same with – I mean, Pablo Carreño Busta's been out with injuries. And then you look at Hyun Chung too, who had a big opening season until last year. He did well in the Australian. He did well in the Golden Swing. Again, I don't see the same thing happening this year. I mean, top 30, he'll stay in, but he's not. After that, like injury loss at the U.S. Open, or in the first round. I mean, I don't see that. I don't see quite the same player that we saw at the beginning of last year.
And talking about players in that range, that early 20s range, I see Kekinado staying around, holding his ground. He's not going to have, obviously, as big of a tournament run as he did in Roland Garros, where he did exceptionally well, but he's proven that he can play well on hard courts. His serve and forehand is just a great combination.
He's improved the backhand too.
Definitely.
It's not a liability. He does make errant decisions, so I don't see him beating any of the top guys. You look at his loss against Thomas Berdych. He had a little bit of a lapse there. That tiebreaker in the first set should have been his. But again, he should hold. And then you're looking at guys to make a little bit of a push. You could see Dimanur making a little bit of a push. The guys there week in, week out.
Yeah,
he's a fighter.
Sure. He's not going to have the sophomore slump.
And you see guys like.
I mean, you have to look at Milos Raonic, right? He was injured for a while.
Yeah, but he's injured all the time. That's the only thing. He has a high level. He lost this week to Medvedev 6-4 in the third. So he should hold and make a jump. I mean, he's a high level player, obviously, but he should hold just with his tournament schedule that we've seen the last couple of years. He doesn't play that much, but when he does play, he puts up good stats. He does well. This year, I at least what I'm looking for is to see if there's a little bit of a shift. I mean, I think you should look at the big three, and I think there's going to be a little drop off in level. I don't think any of the guys are going to go out. There's just a certain quality of player that they're not going to lose to ever.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
no matter where they are, I think Roger Federer will go out before, he's not going to lose to Cameron Norrie. Like he beat him 1-1.
A beatdown, just complete class. And Norrie wasn't even
Stefanos to despite it. Like you have to look inside the top 10, and once his level starts to drop against those type of players, then you can begin to say, okay, it might be coming. And I personally believe it's coming. I think this year. I see some losses coming, against more losses than in years past. The resurgence happened now. I mean, I would be remiss if I said that he's definitely fading, because he's surprised everyone.
Yeah.
And same with Nadal. I mean, you never know. I think Nadal on the clay court swing is still untouchable. and Djokovic level has dropped a little bit, but he's still just so tough.
Yeah, it's so tough.
To-
Roberto Bautista Agut had to just play lights
I mean,
out.
you looked at the matches before that. He played Fusovic,
Yeah.
who was
They're
gassed.
all of them played gassed up tennis.
No. I mean, Fusovic was clinging on to dear life in that match.
Yeah.
Basilashvili, I mean, he just can weather the storm. These guys come out, can play with him, but they just cannot hold that same level.
Yeah.
So and the one guy I would look to in the top 10 to make that push, I think, or there's two guys. I think Dominic Thiem is
For
someone
sure.
who's got to have a better hardcourt season. I mean,
think
he
he will,
lost
though.
first round to Pierre Hughes Herbert in Doha. Doesn't mean anything. It's the first 250 of the year. Doesn't matter. But he can't just be relying on the clay court season anymore if he wants to make that jump. And you look at Alexander Zverev, who I see as when the top three go out, he's going to be the one. I mean, the dude is serving 140 on his first serve consistently. He's bombing the ball. It's a different what we saw in the year-end World Tour Finals. I mean, that was a ridiculously high level of tennis. Even when he got mushed by Djokovic in the round robin, he was. I mean, I don't see, like, he's the next guy. He's legit. He's focused. He's professional about everything, and he's the one I think this year. If there's anyone out of the guys in the top 10 or just in general, he's the next guy to get to the number one.
He's gonna definitely make a run in the Grand Slam.
I personally think that he can do it. I think this is a year, as you said, to make a run in the Grand Slams. He's had trouble in the past, but I think
he's only made the quarters once.
That's just bound to happen. The guy's good.
Yeah,
I
sure.
see him jumping higher than 4. Whether he gets to 1, I don't know. I think Djokovic can hold that. But I see him. I will see him moving ahead of Fed, and I'll see him moving ahead of Rafa too.
I mean, the difference between Fed and Zverev is like 40 points.
Yeah,
it's nothing.
But, I see him moving ahead of Rafa too, and closing the gap down on Djokovic.
Mm-hmm,
I think that's a toss-up whether he passes Djokovic or not. I really do. I think he's a Masters 1000 player. I think he can do even better in the Masters 1000s, given he lost first round in Miami to Medvedev last year. And he lost first round to João Sousa too in Indian Wells. So I see big things coming. I actually would venture and say that he could possibly be won by the end of next year.
I could see that.
So, yeah.
But then I feel like Thiem has a very good shot of doing well on the hard courts. He made the semis of Paris.
I don't quite see it.
He won a 250 in St. Petersburg, and then
that's
he
a
almost
250.
It's still a 250. You get a lot of points there, and then
you get 250 points.
But
that
the thing is,
that's
he's not
top
losing.
10
He's
points.
He's beating
250 points doesn't matter when you're in the top 10. I mean, it matters a little bit. No, it does not.
But then he almost made the semis of the U.S. Open. He played the
great match against
Nadal.
But then
beat
look,
Kevin Anderson
but you look at that match and you say he survived one against Steve Johnson in the second round. He played a battle against Fritz.
Steve Johnson was playing some great tennis.
Steve Johnson, I think, was up a break 2-1.
I was there. I saw the match. Steve Johnson did not have a chance. He was absolutely
no.
gassed
Give me
match.
a break.
Come on,
Dominic Thiem.
Steve Johnson was playing some incredible
tennis
tennis coming out of Winston-Salem.
No.
He was hot. Yes.
So exactly, he's not this dominant force, and he also played it. He lost to a battered Nadal. Nadal didn't play a match for the rest of the year, and you're telling me that he had a great tournament. It was a good tournament, but
he beat the number 5 player in the world. Don't tell me he didn't have a great tournament. All right, he beat the number 5 player Kevin Anderson, who I feel like could really hold his success this year. He just won. What was it? Poon.
I mean, you look at Cilic and Kevin Anderson can be interchangeable. I think Nishikori is better. I think Nishikori will make that little jump too. I think John Isner will drop a little bit. So yeah, and then I mean, yeah, and then you have to ask the question: is whether these comebacks, you have Stan Wawrinka, Andy Murray coming back. You're wondering if
Those
they
are
can have the same. I mean, they're not,
And even Thomas
but
Burditch, right?
whether they can produce the same level. And I look at Andy Murray, and I don't see it necessarily happening. I mean,
I feel like
he's
could definitely
not
get to
the same
30s.
player. Yeah,
He's
not
a solid player.
He's not the
He's definitely not the
he's a
same.
counterpuncher. He relies on his movement and that hip.
Yeah.
It will not be able to hold up. I think Thomas Burditch, he's about to play in the final right now in Doha. He is someone I could see. I see him having a better shot at having a comeback than Stan Wawrinka. I think Stan Wawrinka is going to be fine. He's not top 10.
No,
Again,
not top 10. I mean,
he's
it's
not going to
way
be
too
top 10.
competitive.
I could see Burditch. I think Burditch is good.
Burditch top 10. He's also getting up there in age. That's the only problem.
I could see Burditch being
He's 33 already.
The best. He is the one out of all those guys who I would. I mean, you're saying he's 33 already. Stan Wawrinka's 33 too.
No, I'm not saying Stan Wawrinka will get into
but
the
then
top
you
10.
look at Fed's 37. Age has been that's been
injuries.
a new trend in the ATP. You've
For
seen
sure.
older guys doing better.
Yeah.
You had
Even-
Albert Ramos Vinolas a year ago get to his career high rankings.
Same with Malik Jaziri last year. I mean, he had an incredible run.
So I could see Burditch making, again, he's not the Burditch of old, but he is good. He is the best one out of all those guys.
But then some of the younger guys like Nicholas Yari, I mean, you look at him. I mean, he had some exceptional success on the clay courts, not very much on the hard. I mean, he did beat Cilic.
He has a big
in
game.
Shanghai. He has a very big game.
He has a big game, and again, the trend of tennis on the tour is getting bigger. So I could see him holding. I don't see anything, or jumping a little bit. That's like that's minute detail right there, but besides that, I mean the real wild card. Everybody's asking the question is Nick Kyrgios. What is he doing?
For sure.
I
mean, it
he
was
looked
despicable what he did.
What?
I mean, he didn't play in the off season.
Who says?
Nick Kyrgios said this.
I
mean, he said he played more tennis in 2 days than he did the entire off season.
He just has not.
He's just not good for tennis.
It's hilarious to watch. I mean, he was 44 aces in his first match this year. It was incredible serving.
But he doesn't know how to play tennis other than that. Or he just doesn't want to.
He does know how to play
tennis.
tennis.
He does know how to play tennis, but he just doesn't want to. He just literally just doesn't care.
I think that's no one will ever know what he's up to. And then you look at even some of the other young guys, Denis Shapovalov, he'll hold. He held his last year was consistent.
It was a bit disappointing.
This year it will be consistent as well. And then
I
you
think
look
he'll
at
move
Kyle
up a bit.
Edmund too, who had a big jump last year.
In the beginning.
He took a loss to a guy 192 in the world, first match of the year. What's the dude's name?
Uchiyama, right?
Yeah, Uchiyama. So that was definitely surprising, but I could see him maybe a little bit of a drop, but he's good. But yeah, so overall, that's what we're thinking right now. We'll be back again in a week to be previewing the Australian Open once the draws have come out. Once we've seen a little more of the tennis with Sydney and Auckland, and wrapping up Doha and Brisbane and Pune. And so yeah, thanks for listening, and we hope you tune in again.